Back at it. So a little bit of 1 minute of story time before I get started. Um, I am a software tester, a QA engineer by trade, and in effect, learning to code is learning to improve my automation skills, so that I can move from just manual testing into automation testing, and that's where I went on the JavaScript bootcamp with a former employer. And what I'd started doing was automation testing. Now, after building the To Do app, especially, I feel I have a better understanding of testing software by virtue of learning to build software. It's not prerequisite to becoming a QA engineer. I think having an understanding of how a customer would use software, which in essence we all are customers, we all end up using software in some capacity, but being able to think about how a customer would use a software and then being able to think outside the box as to how it could break, I think is sort of all you need. Not all you need. Of course, you need, be able to critically think through problems, be able to communicate those problems, be able to creatively think outside the box around what problems a software could have. There's lots of other skills, of course, but I think that's sort of the bare minimum, is really be able to think about how a customer would be using software and the potential issues that could arise from their use of it as a QA engineer. Attention to detail, all of those things. I'm not saying are not important, but what I found sort of going through building the To Do app and building all of this, I guess actually just improving my skills now up until this point, is understanding how you build software. I think helps with understanding how to test, or at least for me, it's helping my understanding of how to test software. And so I'm really enjoying this, and I'm really excited to keep going. I said a minute; it's been 2.5. So, yeah, just for whoever's watching this, if it's useful, just some thoughts I had. Cool. We're gonna go into recursion. Oh, it's when a function calls itself. So it becomes straightforward to solve. Decimal to binary converter using JavaScript, you'll learn the fundamental concepts of recursion, explore the call stack, and build out a visual representation of the recursion process through an animation. Okay, so let's get active. Cool. I'm laughing because the get active is from a YouTube thing on Hood Jiu-Jitsu Kaisen by Rob Sopetti, and I just like that saying. I guess it's an American one, Americanization of let's throw hands, or let's yeah. Anyway, cool. Let's go. This is a preview of what I'll build. Cool. So enter decimal number 45, convert it, and it's 101, 101. Cool. Which is a palindrome, because we've done palindromes. I ain't cracking myself up for no reason. Cool. So we'll build a decimal and binary converter and learn about both number systems, and learn about recursion by using it to perform those conversions. The HTML CSS has been given to you. To get started, however, we're going to grab sort of handlers for these various elements. Number inputs, convert button, results. Cool. Okay. Oh my god, I've forgotten the thingy. No. I've literally just forgotten the command for document what's the thingy? This will help me find it. I've forgotten the. Is it just document? It's not just document, is it? Document dots. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I thought it was something else. Good thing we get element by IDs. I don't need to know if it's a, if I'm using an ID as a selector or if I'm using a class as a selector. I don't need to know any of those things because I'm just grabbing it by the ID. But I could at some points need to, maybe I don't have a nice ID or it's been programmed without an ID, and then I use a CSS selector. That's where knowing some of the other methods, will help. And then you need to know like CSS selector strategies and stuff. But cool. So there's my convert button, there's my number input, and there's my result. Okay. And I'm doing the good old copy and paste because I'm making too many errors, simple typo errors. Yeah, and this happens with this can happen to anything, It's so easy to make some of these typos and for it to be fairly difficult to identify. Where, especially if you don't have like an IDE's sort of syntax highlighting that can show some of these errors before they become, catastrophic to what you're doing. Cool. So we're going to create another thing I was thinking about was sort of the idea of coming up with the I'll use that arrow. Coming up with the logic behind, some of these apps. And one thing I was taking for granted is the pseudocode. So if you remember when I did a palindrome checker, I effectively listed out everything I needed to do. I needed to check for an input. I needed to check for, is it the right way around? I need to check if there's any characters, numbers, clean those, all of those things. Those all come into the pseudocode. And so you will write sort of, okay, this is the flow I'm going to do. I'm going to do A, B, C, D, E. And you write those steps out and then code to those steps almost. So it's called pseudocode because it's just, human readable, effectively human readable code. Like saying, take an input, press the convert button, check for this, do that, and then you build a functionality under it. So that, I think, answers the question that I've been asking somewhat of how do you know to build in these sort of IDs, and then you use the ID later on, and it all fits in nicely. And I think that pseudocode element, that providing the scaffolding, becomes the first step to doing that, because when you see it laid out, it's easier to then connect things. And so, yeah, that's a little aside from sort of my answering some of those questions that I've been having. And we did a bit of this as well, sort of logging things to the console, so that as you are working, you can sort of start seeing things work, or seeing potentially where problems could arise. So yeah. So a good way to test that everything working is to log the value attribute of the number inputs to the console. So anytime you see it, we can see that we're grabbing the right thing. You can access the value attribute of an element using the dot or bracket notation. So within the check input function, we're going to console log the value of number input. So that's cool. We're in the function now, and we're going to console log number input value. The other thing as well is that what was I going to say? I can't remember. Yeah, I can't remember. Now, when you get those instances where the more you try and remember something, the more it flees. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So yeah, we're just going to add an event listener to the convert button that we'll call check user input, which is cool. So I didn't check it. Oh, something's going wrong. Something's going wrong with my website. Let's refresh it, because why not? Okay. Yeah, that's causing it to crash. That's interesting. Yeah, okay. So I was wondering why I was on the account once, even though I was oh no, yeah. Every time I click it calls up. Cool. Your convert button should be working, but it could get tiring for users to enter in a number, then click that button each time they want to convert from decimal to binary. It's much more convenient to perform the conversion when the enter or return key is pressed. Okay, we're gonna start doing that, yeah? The key down event fires every time a user presses a key on their keyboard, and it's a good way to add more interactivity to input elements. Chain advanced listener to number input. Okay. Why did they say it like that? The way they said chain add event listener. Oh, cool. I just want to say, I'm not going to say it now. Let's see how it goes. So whenever an event object is created automatically, You don't always need to use the object, like with your click handler above, but it can be useful to access information about the event. Okay, so we're going to pass E into the callback function, which E is a common parameter name for the event object, and log E to the console body. Okay, cool. So I'm going to take E. I'm going to say console log E, which I'm not going to put into a string because I want the event object. I don't necessarily need a string of E. Let's see what's saying. Okay, it's just a getter. It's asking if, I guess getter is me doing something. Getter is me attempting to get something, which is not what we're doing. We're just getting the, that's very interesting. Okay, let's see. Okay. That's the type. Alright, okay. And then the target. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So we can see what the input object itself is, and that's an input. Ooh. So the target is an input with an ID of number input and a class of number input. So I can see what it's targeting, and I can see the event type key down. Oh, okay, cool. I'm hype. Now we want to perform an action when the enter key is pressed. The most helpful property is key. Key was this one, which tells you the string value of the key that was pressed. Okay. Okay. So I'm starting to fall asleep. Not because I'm bored, but because I'm tired. Okay, so remove the console log. Alright, I was trying to see if I could see enter there. But cool, we need an if statement. I will check for something and then do something else. I'm going to check for if a dot key should be equal to yo, I am sleeping. Cool. So we're checking if the key of E, which was that bit there, okay, is strictly equal to enter. Need a body empty. Alright. yeah, I'm gonna call it there. I wanted to say, first recursion video, flawless victory, no mistakes. If I said it whilst it was going on, trust I would have jinxed it, but alas, we're here. We're gonna keep showing up, and I hope you do too.